Welcome back, my friends, to my tournament series. So this is actually round 2 in Aerocrastic Salad Cup. Game 1 in the best of 3 against zachbsain, who is going to be taking the Turin Kings. So hopefully you guys enjoy the tournament perspective. I don't get to play them terribly often, but Aerocrastic, of course, held a tournament that was offline, which means you schedule with your opponents. You don't have to play it all in one day, which is great. So I'm able to actually play and not really suffer from the issues I have in my hands. So again, Aerocrastic, I want to sincerely thank you for that because I've been having a blast playing in these tournaments. So this is round 2. Was able to win my first round match. Now, like I said, I'm facing off against zachbsain, a very formidable tournament player. And as far as the picks and bans go, he did go with Tomb Kings, and I believe he banned Empire and Dark Elves. So that did leave the Dwarves open. And of course, Dwarves do have some really bad matchups, but they also have some matchups that are very strong. And I think that the matchup against the Tomb Kings is one that's very good for them. So as far as my build goes, in the front line, it's going to be Dwarf Warriors mixed in with the Miners with Blasting Charges. Longbeards are also quite good, but I don't think you really need them against Tomb King's infantry. It feels like overkill. Yes, they're immune to psychology, so they don't get buckled off by like War Sphinxes and Scorpions, but even still, standard Dwarf Warriors have really good leadership. You can see here the Dragonfire Pass have 88. And I think standard ones have 76. So even with terror routes, it's going to take some time for them to run. They have good base leadership and good defensive stats. Now for the anti-constructs, I do have 2 groups of the Thunderers, one on each side, and 2 groups of the Iron Drakes with the Trollhammer Torpedoes, which are just absolute MVPs in this matchup. They just crump any of the big threats, Chariots, War Sphinxes, and yeah, they can be compromised by, Carrion and Nehekar Horsemen and, Chariots themselves, but I find that they're pretty durable. These bad boys do have 120 armor, if I'm not mistaken, 125, and yeah, even though they have a low model count, they're a bit of a small target, so those guys can do some work. Now, of course, Slayers are very, very important here as well. Some of the tools they'll be using to get into your back line are Nehekar Horsemen, Chariots, and Slayers are an okay answer against those, and they're unbreakable. Now, honestly, they cut through skeletons really quick as well. So 4 Slayers in total. Dragonback Slayers here, just Slayers. The Dragonback Slayers, and Slayers on the far side, and in the far back we do have Slayers as well. So 4 in total. We do also have a great cannon, because if I don't have a great cannon and they're spamming Ushapti Great Bows or anything like that, or a Wild Boner Giant, I want to make sure I have something that I can punish them with and force them to come to me, because that's really where the dwarves shine. Now for Zach's army, he does indeed have Ushapti Great Bows, so he's got 3 of them, with some Tomb Guard with silver chevrons hiding in the tree line. So looking to perhaps overload a flank in my army because I didn't know where he was right now. Zach was hiding basically everything. I assumed he was kind of out in this direction because I could see Cetra in the open field. So I just started moving this way, but I think that was his plan all along. He wanted to kind of pull me this direction so he could collapse on the Great Bows on my weak side. And basically the Great Bows at this point can, all get in range to shoot at the Thunders. They're slightly obstructed here from my cannon. So there's a lot of cool stuff that he's doing here. I like it quite a bit. In the forest here, he's got a Necrotect, Horseman Carrion for disruption and healing from the Necrotect, and double Carrion War Sphinx. So he does have a War Sphinx here as well as Cetra. And the front line's going to be Skeleton Warriors for the most part. I think he had 1 group of Tomb Guard on the far side, but that's pretty much it. On the back, he does have some Carrion and the Deep Vanguard. But Slayer is definitely very important. Really good at shutting down the disruption tools. And it forces basically the constructs to have to go into your backline and deal with things, at which point you can usually pick them apart with the firepower from the Dawi. And I do think this is a dwarf favored matchup. I've seen Tomb King's players win it in high level matches and things like that, but for the most part I do think that the dwarves probably have like a 55-45 advantage in this matchup. But again, it depends on the player, depends on the map. There's so many variables. Some maps it might not be as good. For example, like if you're on a map with a lot of line of sight blocking and hills, it'd probably honestly be better for Tomb Kings. But on a map like this, it is somewhat open. Granted, there's also a lot of areas for him to hide. So here I am squaring up to his army, a little bit of fast forwarding as we posture here. Miners with Blasting Charges will be coming forward, and I wanted to get some freebie volleys here with the Blasting Charges onto the Skeletons, but I did see Cetra coming, and I didn't want to give it up that easily. So the cannon fire is going into the Sphinx right here, which was hiding in the tree line, so the cannon getting a decent initial volley. Now Cetra is going to be coming in. Blasting Charges doing some great damage here against the Skeleton Warriors. You can see those bad boys are down to 119. And Cetra's here now. So basically the Iron Drakes are going to be scooting up. The Thunders obviously have pretty good range, and the Slayers are going to be rotating back here to defend. Now in the back, Carrion have landed. Carrion, of course, are infantry size, so the bonus for Large of Slayers doesn't help too much, but the Carrion should be getting cut apart pretty quick. I mean, Slayers just have raw combat stats to boot. 38 melee attack, certainly not bad against the melee defensive Carrion, which is actually 46, so it might take a little bit longer, but just the weapon strength able to really cut them down really quick. Now, Cetra takes a wallop in here from the firepower. The 2 Thunders are able to open up really hard, and the Trollhammer Torpedoes are advancing in. I did also use a Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin. Oh, and look at the volleys coming in from the Trollhammer Torpedoes. Brutal damage. One actually hit Cetra on the back of the head. It looks like he kind of reacted to that, which was kind of funny. But as far as the frontline fighting goes, it's pretty much always going to be dwarf favored. The dwarf warriors, longbeards, all those different troops are really, really effective against skeleton warriors. So in the back, the first of the harassing units is gone. The cannon's still online. And seeing the Ushapti Great Bows here, arguably I probably should have just ignored them, but I decided to put a cannon on those bad boys to try and wear them down. And I guess it is doing some good damage, so probably worth it at the end of the day. So here, a pretty balls-in attack here. You can see the Nehekar Horsemen of the Carrion very desperate to shut down the cannon, but that's what the Slayers are for. The Slayers are just going to be dogpiling in, and they're basically a hard counter against all these type of units. Now, as far as the frontline fighting goes, you can see the Skeleton Warriors and company are very, very beat up. In the front, they're pretty much falling to pieces. There is one group of skeletons here that have gotten through, but the Slayers and the Rune Lord are chasing down Cetra, while the Trollheimer Torpedoes have been able to just consistently shoot at the Cambrian War Sphinx, which is in really, really bad shape. Now, the Great Bows can, of course, pick apart my Thunderers, my Trollheimer Torpedoes, but from an ammunition perspective, I haven't found it, and I play this matchup a lot from Tomb Kings as well, I haven't found the Great Bows to be super efficient, at least for my playstyle, but nonetheless, they are getting in and doing some good damage against my troops here. But I'm still good to be turning. Leadership is still steady on these guys. The Trollheimer Torpedoes are taking hammering, but the Thunderers unleash a huge salvo, and then if the Cambrian War Sphinx wants to charge the Thunderers, he's also going to be taking Trollheimer Torpedoes to the face. Here comes a huge volley just blasting into him. That is a lot of damage right there. That War Sphinx is down to 2,400. Granted, it does get in. I'm a little bit bunched up, but what's good about the 4 Slayer build as well is that having 4 Slayers means like there's so many threats. Slayers can basically chase down Ushopti Great Bows into the Shadow Realm and really put a ton of pressure on them, and there's so many things that they're very, very good at in this matchup. So in the back, the cannon crew does get buckled off by the cycle charging of the Horsemen of the Birds, but he did have to sacrifice those guys, and I don't know if there's any follow-up. The cannon crew should ultimately probably come back. Back at the main line fighting here, you can see the Cetra the Sphinx. Cetra on the Sphinx here is going to be fighting amongst a bunch of Slayers, which certainly isn't a good situation for him. And the Rune Lord is going to be jumping into the Cambrian War Sphinx, able to hopefully put a little bit of damage on that guy. And I do have the Trollheimer Torpedoes here. I have more or less a full health group of Thunderers right here, which are able to shoot downtown. So my gun line is still in good shape. The cannons are also coming back, and the Dragonback Slayers are fully healthy. And I can't tell you how many games against Dwarves I've had where I thought I was winning, and then I look, and I see the Dragonback Slayers running around, and I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to lose now. So Trollheimer Torpedoes here are back online, 17 of 21 models, basically full firing capacity. The only missile unit of mine that's really taken brutal damage, I guess, no, they're probably 2. These Thunders have taken a bit. The other ones still have 11 of 21, so more or less half of their firing capacity, which is nice. Good charge here. He's able to get the Nehekar Horseman here in a very clutch moment. The battle's actually really close as far as the bounce power goes. But remember, guys, there is an Ushopti summon here being used, and as soon as that does disappear, it's going to take a ton of pressure off my army. So Cetra is forced back a little bit, and if he does want to fall back, the Great Bows are actually being attacked by some brave Dwarven miners who've gone back here with their pickaxes and started chopping here at the Chosen of the Gods. But my cannon is back online, and sniping the cannon is going to be tough. He could, but he'd probably have to use almost all of his ammunition to do that. So now we do have the focus fire from the Great Bows coming in to the Dwarven Thunders. The Trollheimer Torpedoes have been coming back, and 11 of them are unleashing here on Cetra, who is afflicted here by the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin, which means this bad boy is slowed down, and he's going to have a problem getting away from those Trollheimers. And also there's a bunch of Slayers, I think, at his feet. Now, there's some Slayers here? Yeah, there are some Slayers. The Rune Lord, of course, is getting some pretty good damage, and my Dwarven guns are going to be singing. The Thunders line up their shots. Old Deadeye'll get him, unleashing a salvo of fire into these constructs. And Cetra is very, very danger low. 1,400 here. The other one has 2,100, so Zach's done a really good job keeping that one alive. And the Necrotech coming out of nowhere. Really good to be putting some pressure on my my Iron Drakes right here. But the bounce fire for the first time of the game does fall in my favor. The cannon is still shooting, and I have a ton of ammo left, like a ton. So even if Cetra wants to kind of lurk in the back, he's still going to be having constant pressure, as these cannons are going to be lining up their shots and going after Cetra. As far as the mainline fighting goes, looks like some Tomb Guard have come in from reserve, but the Dwarf Warriors should be able to outmuscle them. Slayers, of course, have good DPS against light armor. And Tomb Guard only have 50 armor. They're basically just naked skeleton boys, so not the best situation for them. Good play here by Zach, though, still scrapping to the bitter end here. Cambrian War Sphinx and the Necrotech going back here, trying to shut down the missile pieces, which is good. Those Iron Drakes with the Trollheimer Torpedoes, definitely a high-value target. But the other ones, crossfiring and forcing the Cambrian War Sphinx into the tree line. We have the Rune Lord coming in with a contingent of elite Dwarf Warriors, the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass. So we're going to be going in here trying to shut those guys down, and I do not think this Sphinx is going to make it too far, as the Trollheimer Torpedoes are going to be unleashing a blasting volley into his face, although, man, those Great Bows are actually adding up a little bit. But yeah, just getting blasted right in the dome. 140 HP, the Slayers are awaiting. Their doom shall be fulfilled, but so shall the doom of the Sphinx. And down it goes. The Dwarven Thunder is able to sing right into the face of that bad boy. So now the bounce power is almost point of no return. If you look, Chosen of the Gods, Ushopti Great Bows are all crumbling, and if they're going to be running from Slayers, it's really not going to be efficient because they can't be shooting, although pretty good ammunition conservation, but that is going to be game 1 in this best of 3 going to my Dwarves, so very, very intense game for sure. And it's a hard matchup, I would say, for the Tomb Kings in the Dwarf matchup, but granted, it's still winnable. I've seen some pretty good builds using, what was it? I think it was Arkan with double Necrotect on Chariots, and then from there you use like Tomb Scorpions because they're like a smaller target and just like more of a swarming army. After the game, Zach did mention that like he didn't like the choice of the Great Bows, and I agree. I think the Great Bows were the weak link. There was pretty good pressure on my army, and he did a good job considering what he had, but like so much of his force was invested in the Sphinxes. or not in the Sphinxes, in the Great Bows, where that could have been like Tomb Scorpions, more Nehekar Horsemen, more swarming elements to just overwhelm my force, which I think is probably the more efficient way to do it. Granted, it's still a tricky one. So well played to Zach. That was game 1 in our best of 3. So now, my friends, we're going to be going on over to game 2. So if I am able to win game 2 in this best of 3 in Arrow's Salad Cup, I will be advancing on. But if I do lose it, I'll be going to a rubber match here with Zach, and should be quite a bit of fun. So guys, we'll see you in game 2 in just a second. All hail the mighty, my friends, and now we're back with game 2, which is going to feature my Vampire Coast facing off against the Skaven of zachbsain. We're going to be going in with the triple cannon build, which I like quite a bit. It's a little bit much on the cannons, but if you're able to kind of get good focus fire, take out their Dazales, their Ogres, and oftentimes you do see a Gracier on a Bell, so there's pretty good targets for the triple cannons. The main thing, of course, is running interference and trying to halt the Skaven advance, which normally isn't too bad considering Skaven do go with like Clan Rats and Skaven Slaves and Chaff most of the time, but Zach actually really caught me off guard here, I must say. As far as his build goes, he does have a Plague Monk, so 3 Plague Monks are going to give him really good stopping power, or grinding power, I should say, in the front line to really cut through my troops. It's a very, very scary situation. So for my army in the back, you guys have probably seen this build before. I have 2 builds against Skaven. One of them is a missile build like this, where you use carronades and kind of halt their advance and just get really good value out of the cannons. And the other build is actually a bit of a rush. So you have like 4 Mournguls. You're just going balls deep with an aggressive build with like Hounds and Terror Routes and things like that. Anyways, here in the front, it is going to be 4 deck end mobs. Up in the sky, I do have 2 standard deck droppers, the cheapo ones, because they're pretty good at routing off Skaven troops, focusing down gunline units, shooting Rat Ogres. Definitely like them quite a bit. You have the Mourngull Hunter. Having a terror-causing piece is very important. He does cause terror, because if you look, aside from that, I don't really have anything that causes terror. Of course, Mourngulls a couple months back, let me have a quick drink of water here, guys. The Mourngulls a couple months back were nerfed, so they don't cause terror anymore. Only the ROR ones do, the Terrors in the Night, which makes sense. I think it was a good nerf. I think having a very, very cheap terror-causing unit that's also quite powerful like that was a little bit oppressive. So we got some Hounds as well. Hounds to pressure the flanks, go after gunline and artillery pieces. We have 2 Scurvy Dogs. Noctilus on foot. Basically, the reason I like him is because up in the sky, it's a little bit risky for Luther against Skaven snipers. And of course, Howling Warpgale can lock him in place, and it can get pretty messy. So I really like Count Noctilus in this matchup. Just having him on foot to summon and just be a durable piece. We have the Mourngull Haunter, and in the back line, we do have 2 groups of Halberds, 3 Cannons, and 2 Mourngulls to protect those. And that's pretty much my whole force. Now for the army here of zachbsain. Clan Rats across the entire front line, Slingers in the secondary, which is great. The Slingers are just a dirt cheap counter against deck droppers and pretty good against like lightly armored zombies too. 3 Plague Monks. He does also have the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, Natty Bubo Sharpshooters, which of course are just a staple in almost every single matchup. I'm trying to think, is there a matchup in which Natty Bubos aren't good? I don't think so. I think they're literally good in every single matchup. And on top of that, he does have some Death Runners in the back and the Ixchas Triads, which are just one of the better units on this Skaven roster now. Being able to summon clones that can block things, target things, like block up artillery, it's just so good. And of course, they have anti-large, so they're pretty good against crabs, and also very good against Mourngulls, and they're swift as well. Gracier, Plague, and that's it. So it's very much like an aggressive Skaven build, like a forward marching, not going to be sitting back, and yeah, which is what he needs to do. If he sits and just lets my cannons shoot, I will eventually win this trade. The cannons, of course, will be able to snipe out a ton of value, and it'll go well, so he does need to advance here. So the cannons going after the Ogres here, and man, brutal damage. The first Ogres just getting pounded down to 12 models, and of course, Skaven cannot resurrect models, so every piece of value I can get is quite good. And in the back, the Scurvy Dogs are coming in. I really do want to get on the Natty Bubo Sharpshooters, but he does have the Death Runners here, which I didn't see until it was too late. So I basically charge in with the Doggos, and I will get some decent damage, but mainly I also wanted to expose the Sharpshooters to allow my cannons to start shooting them as well. So the Scurvy Doggos do jump in here. Noctilus is going to be using a summon from the Rothsmund right on top of the Natty Bubo Sharpshooters. I know that they're one of the best pieces on his faction here, on his roster that he has, so I really need to get rid of those guys. Nice Scorch coming in. So the Grace here is able to get a good Scorch down the line. It does hit the Clan Rats, but it also hits some of my zombies, so a bit of a wash there. And the Mourngull Hunter is able to blitz into the front line and get a massive terror out here, actually pushing back the Skaven Slaves instantly. And mainly, I just wanted to create a mess in the center, get the Mourngull Hunter back here, drop some summons, so you can see the summons are coming in from Noctilus, and just go balls deep and take out these Natty Bubo Sharpshooters. Granted, he does have the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers here. These guys are quite tenacious and durable by Skaven standards, and he is also able to drop the Unholy Clamor, so really, really good stuff for sure. Now, if we take a big old look at the battlefield on the flank here, we were able to pick off some of the Ogres, but I have been kind of forced back by a resurgence of pressure coming in from Plague Monks and Clan Rats and just all sorts of nasty stuff. And also the Gracier Plague is able to push me back as well. Up in the sky, Deck Droppers are basically just shooting Rat Ogres down, which is good. Getting rid of the Skaven Mass allows me to be a little bit more aggressive with characters like the Mourngull Haunter. And I did use the Potion of Strength as well in the Morgul Hunter. I had a little bit of extra money, so I was like, let's see if we can pop down those snipers. Now, the triple cannon fire has been doing very well. I was able to take out the Natty Boobo sharpshooters. Those guys have been put down for the most part. And I have some scurvy dogs waiting in the wing, so I should be able to feast on the souls of those rats if I am paying attention here. I can't quite remember if I was. But yeah, we forced those guys back. They're at 14 of 24, so their firing capacity much lowered. And now Noctuls and the Morgul Hunter are in mortal combat here. However, the back things are getting a little bit messy. Very nice flank. He actually had some gutter runners with poison Vanguard deployed behind my army. And yeah, the halberds are pretty good. And normally in this build, I do have depth guard in the back to kind of peel things off. But, you know, I cut them this game to try something else. And I was really regretting it at this point because depth guard are like a hard counter against plague monks, as well as a multitude of troops that he brought. And I really am paying the toll for it. So we're trying to defend this cannon. It's getting taken out pretty quick. And it's probably going to be crumbling down here. I say I shouldn't be able to save that. On the other side here, the scurvy dogs do pull back with some Morguls and are able to peel off the clan rats. So I still have two cannons shooting, both of which are shooting into the Gracier, which is a really good target. It's big, it's relatively slow, and it seems to be doing pretty well. But Zach's doing a really good job pressuring my back line. He's getting all these rats, he's just swarming me. And the Plague Monks, I don't have too many good tools for killing them. Yeah, I can shoot them with deck droppers and whatnot, but that's really not a great situation. So the Morguls coming in, we have the halberds coming in as well. We're trying to hold back this advance, and up in the center mass, you can see some of the doggos have been able to get around and jump on top of the sharpshooters, so we're doing a good job keeping them offline, but look at that, really nice play here. He uses the Ixchis Triads to actually block here. Granted, I had a bit of a lapse in micro, but I'm going to be running around them and then jumping back here onto the doggos. But again, he's got the Triads there. Zach doing a really good job defending these. Granted, this might be their last run as I do break and shatter them, so that was 100% worth it. We are able to break off these sharpshooters. Now back in the center mass, Noctuls basically just having to spam summons to hold back 3 units of Plague Monks. I think one of these is Death Runners as well, so really nasty stuff. Like Armor Sundering, Noctuls should be getting his Armor Sundered here in a moment. The Morgul Hunter has had its Armor Sundered, and he's very, very squishy for sure. And we're actually falling behind on the bounce of power. We have a group of scurvy dogs here sweeping the battlefield, but the back line's kind of becoming a bit of a concession. Now, Zach has been doing something really cool. He did it twice this game, and I missed it the first time here in the cast, but he's been using the dreaded 13th spell, so he summons a group of Storm Vermin back here. Now, normally I defend my back line using Morguls and as like a sweeper unit, but against these Storm Vermin, it's actually a really bad situation. So the dreaded 13th spell used by zachbsain, beautiful stuff back here, doing explosion damage, killing the zombies I had defending, and then also basically just tar pitting my carronade. So at this point, I'm like full retreat. I'm like, abandon ship, man overboard. The Morguls are going to be running because it's a complete disaster back here. My cannons are offline. Maybe I should have spread those guys out more, put them further back. But nonetheless, I paid the rat toll. The rat toll has been paid. So the Morguls here are going to be pulling back, and I know that even though the bounce power is in Zach's favor, the game's not over by any stretch. I have the Morgul Hunter, I have Noctilus, I have Terror, and if I can get the Morguls back and get them like centralized and get a big old juicy Invocation, which I had enough Winds of Magic for, and save these guys, they still have some pretty good teeth here. So I do drop an Invo right here to heal those guys up and try and resurrect models. So 6 here, 7 here, they're in critical binding and crumbling, so that's really not good for me. But in the center here, you can see the Plague Monks are getting worn down by the kind of attrition pressure here from Count Noctuls. He's really good in those type of fights. He's able to force back those units, constantly drop summons, and this is looking to be a classic Vampire Coast endgame here, where it's Count Noctuls versus a million Skaven, but again, he's not added to the picture yet. And we still have some deck droppers, which is nice. Granted, the gutter runners here are doing a really good job. They're actually just poking down the bats the entire game, and the slingers, of course, are like such a cheap unit that if I send the bats after them, it's like such a waste because they're cheap, but yeah, it's really a bit of a double-edged sword there. So right here, of course, the Morguls are fighting in Mortal Kombat, and Noctuls is fighting the Morgul Hunter is in good shape. The Hunter has really been an MVP. Up to about 90 kills, a lot of it against Chaff, but still most of it against Plague Monks as well, which has been quite good. And I do drop a summon here, and you can see, look at the bounce power come back towards the middle, guys. Look at that. The Vampire Coast clawing its way back here as Noctuls and the Morgul Hunter are able to get mass routes here on the Skaven. Of course, Terror, a very strong mechanic. And I was almost like, man, I should have brought more terror-causing units here. Like Rotting Leviathans or something. Anyways, deck droppers here are swarming over, going after the Rat Ogres. I know I need to finish off those elite units. And the Skaven are kind of running for the hills. They do have the Ixchis Triads here, but Noctuls is here, the summons are here, and they're fairly lightly armored. And of course, the Morgul Hunter is really good against infantry. And normally the Ixchis Triads, or Eshin Triad, RORs, would be really, really good against a Hunter. But the fact that I have buffering zombies here means they're not able to get the full surround. So they're really kind of suffering in this situation. So the Triads here down to 35 models, trying to break out those elite units the best we can. We're also going to be getting our bats and using them to rear charge the Triads and try and break them. In the distance, some of the Morguls are able to chase off a lot of rats here. Some ogres are coming back in, but I do, of course, have the deck droppers here who can swarm in and finish them off. And yeah, we're just going in, trying to finish off the Triads. Things are getting a little bit crunk. So the fighting is on. We're continuing to grind those guys down. It does get a little bit grindy here in the late game, but Raystorm dropped as well on top of the Rat Ogres. But these Morguls are probably done for. A lot of rats coming in, Plague Monks with Unholy Clamor, and the Unholy Clamor is pretty good, giving leadership and vigor. throughout the course of the entire game is very, very impactful. As a matter of fact, you can see a lot of these rat units are actually just winded. They're not exhausted. Some of them are tired, but that's really good for this point in the game. Whereas most of my troops are debilitated, which means the undead equivalent of being exhausted, basically. So we come in here for a fight here, and I was actually feeling pretty good. I think I had one more summon in the back pocket. A lot of the Skaven, of course, are very, very beat up, so terror routes are going to be quite impactful, but you can see there's still a lot of Skaven left. Plague Monk's coming back in, but the dreaded 13 spell once again is popped, and now suddenly I have to deal with a bunch of halberds. So we surge in, and I'm trying to basically get fights away from the halberd. So the Morgul Haunter is kind of pulling back here while the bats are attacking the Plague Monks here on the far side, of course. But yeah, the Morgul Haunter just trying to like drift away from those halberds, but the halberds are doing so much work. Noctilus, of course, grinding it out, but the Morgul Haunter is in the danger zone. The dreaded 13 spell coming in, and who would have thought? If you had probably just brought like regular summons, I think I would have been okay, but those halberd summons this game have just been so good. And you can see the Morgul Haunter here trapped in combat now. Of course, I have to, the bats weren't chasing and attacking over here anymore, so the Morgul Haunter is just going to have to suffer in there, as is Count Noctilus. So we do a big old look here, the Morgul Haunter trying to kill the Rat Ogres, but just fully surrounded, being shanked by a million rats. And now the Bounce of Power, a classic Noctilus situation. I thought I might have a chance here. I think I almost had enough for an invocation, so I was like, let's just try it and see. The Bounce Power, of course, is getting more and more Skaven focused, especially since he does have some bonus versus infantry troops here and Death Runners and stuff. He is able to wear down Count Noctilus. So guys, that is going to be game 2 going to zachbsain in our best of 3 in Aerocrastic's big old epic tournament. So if you guys are in for our rubber match, game 3, and I have to say game 3 was a really, really intense battle, so that'll be coming up next. So as far as the army goes, I liked it. I think it had some teeth. Couple misplays perhaps, maybe not being good enough at halting his advance, but yeah, Zach's army really caught me off guard. I need my depth guard here just to kind of cleave the backline pressure because I needed them when he advanced back there. I didn't have enough. And yeah, his use of the dreaded 13 spell was so good. So in retrospect, what I would probably do with this build is cut one cannon, probably cut the deck droppers, and then just like, so that's going to give you deck droppers plus one cannon will give you enough for one depth guard. And then from there, basically you could just get like another defensive zombie unit or something. I don't know about the lore choice. And honestly, there's some cool builds using like Rotting Leviathans as well against stuff like this, which I think can be really good. So maybe you got to experiment a bit. But yeah, it was a really close game. Really, really well played to Zach. It was a good scrap for sure. I almost came back, then he came back with the dreaded 13th spell. It was super epic. So very well played to him. All right, guys. So now we're going to be jumping into the rubber match. The winner of this will be advancing on in the tournament. And of course, I might put a link in the comment section below to the tournament. But the problem is by the time I put this up, I might have already played the next round. So there may be a spoiler as to my future kind of a performance. But yeah, I'll try and figure something out. But nonetheless, guys, I'll keep you updated and we'll go from there. All right, game 3, rubber match. This is for all the marbles. See you guys in a second. All right, guys, and now we're back with game 3, which is going to feature my Skaven, led by the notorious Tinker Rat Ikit Claw, facing off against Zach's Greenskins, who shall be led by Azag. So a very fun matchup, and I was very happy when he picked the Greenskins, because this is a matchup I've actually been practicing a lot. I've been playing against Hadries, a lot of other good Greenskin players, and really have gotten very comfortable in this one. Granted, it's still difficult. I don't know what I would say. I mean, I've had some success and some failures and mix and matching builds and trying different things. I don't know. I've always felt like the Skaven have a slight advantage here, but again, like top tier Greenskin players, some of them I've talked to, of course, have said that they actually like this matchup for the Greenskin. So there's some give and take. Now, as far as the build goes, I do have 2 Gutter Runners, which are just invaluable. If Azag's flying overhead, just trolling and trying to snipe your Skaven leadership, you need to have something on the ground to poke him, aside from just the sharpshooters. They poison him, they slow him, and they're also really good against Savage Orcs and a multitude of lightly armored troops like Trolls on the Greenskin roster, so I'm a huge fan of Gutter Runners. Front line's going to be Skaven Slaves. Secondary line is Clan Rats. We do also have the Ixchaz Triads to get some anti-large against Azag, also get some summons to block charges, and in case they bring Trolls or Spiders, you have something to deal with that. We have a Greyseer of Plague as well, so the Greyseer, or the Plague Priest of a Plague here on the Plague Furnace, I think is what it's called. I'm totally blanking right now. But nonetheless, he summons rats, and also the Greenskins usually have a massive advantage in the infantry fight. So having him to come in, drop extra summons, and also do a Mortis Engine effect is super useful. Ikit Claw is also really good, so most of our Winds of Magic will be going towards summons here in the Plague Priest, but it's really important to bring Ikit Claw in my opinion. Skrulk's also very good, but he gets sniped really easily by Spirit Leech spam. You bring Howling Warp Gale. So Howling Warp Gale here is so damn good against Azag. You lock him up, you shoot him with your Warp Lightning Cannons, your Jezzails. It is just huge profit. Plus he has more HP. On his Doom Wheel he's got 4100. He causes Terror. Terror routes are very powerful against Greenskins. I do think that Ikit Claw is the most competitive pick in this match, but that's just my 2 cents. On top of that, we do have a Plague Claw Catapult. A lot of Greenskin players these days are using Daka lines and Orc Archer lines, so basically having a catapult to just nuke them is super great. And we do have Ikit Zap Zap Cannon, which I think is a staple. If you're able to shoot Azag before the fighting starts, they don't get to use their Wa, but nonetheless, it's just really good. This thing just absolutely hammers into the casters and is really powerful against the Greenskin Lords, whether it be Wurzog, Azag, you name it. I mean, maybe not Grimgor, because he's just, well, probably Grimgor. Everything's good against Grimgor. We have Rat Ogres back here and Warp Grinders, so obviously the Greenskins are a very swarming faction, so they're going to be coming back here with Spider Riders, Squigs, all sorts of stuff like that, so having the Warp Grinders to lock them in place is super clutch. Up on the hill here, we do also have Death Runners. I like to bring these in case the Greenskins go with like a Doom Divers or a Rock Lobber line and just really kind of meme it out and try something really off meta. At which point you let the main fighting start, you were really patient with them, you pull them in the late game and have them just go in and kill the artillery pieces. Now, in this case though, he doesn't have any artillery, so basically the Death Runners are just like appealing and a ganking unit. So while some Skaven Slaves are like fighting Savage Orcs, you pull in the Death Runners in the back and you'll break them very, very quickly. Now for the forces of Zach, he's got Azag, a Goblin front line to take a beating for Gork and Mork, a secondary line of Savage Orcs, which is a really good choice. And like I said, a ton of archers. So we have 3 archers here, 3 trolls. Now trolls are an interesting one. And the reason why Greenskin players do bring them here is to shut down Doom Wheels and Flares and things like that. So I do like the troll pick here. I think it's very, very solid. And it's good to put some troll toll pressure on Ikit Claw. Granted, they are low leadership. So if you're able to get those good shots with Warp Lightnings, they will run rather quickly. Savage Orcs, he does have a lot of mobile units, so Squig Hoppers, so 1, 2, and I think he has 3 in total. That's basically it. Very, very scary stuff, and Azag, of course, up in the sky. So we're going to see if my Skaven, excuse me, can survive the pressure of the big old glorious Greenskin Wa. So we are going to be starting the battle here on the low ground, and of course I have the artillery, I have the skirmishing elements. So in order to fulfill the attacking rules, I just move forward with the Gutter Runners, I get a little bit of light skirmishing, and set up on the low ground. So the Greenskins are going to have some light line of sight blocking. If you look at the hill here from the perspective of my Warp Lightning Cannon, I'm not going to be able to shoot until they come over the ridge of the hill. So Ikit Claw and my skirmishers are moving forward. My Death Runners are also getting in position, thinking about going back here. And really, I couldn't see his army right now. So I was just kind of looking around with the Death Runners, trying to see if he had like a Wild Doom Diver catapult. Because one of the builds that actually caught me really off guard a couple weeks back was I had something very identical to my build right now. But the guy actually had, I can't remember who I was playing against, but it was like 2 Doom Diver catapults. And they were actually pretty good at sniping my artillery pieces because they were hiding behind a hill and they could shoot up and over, whereas my Warp Lightning Cannons couldn't return fire. It was really funny, actually. But nonetheless, the Ikit Claw, coming up on the high ground, the Greenskin Wa is approaching very, very quickly, and the Death Runners are now falling back. I know the Greenskins have some pretty good battlefield control with the mobile units, so I need to fall back with my runners, because if they get caught by some Squig Hoppers, it is going to be very bad. So the first volleys are underway. Play Claw Catapult, going to be going into some Goblins unintentionally, of course, because they were just the nearest target and it auto-fired, but really it's not bad. At least we took out 12 Goblins here. Probably like 20 gold worth of value. Good stuff. And now the Warp Lightning Cannons, or the Play Claw Catapult, is going to be shooting into Savage Orcs. But mainly, over the course of the battle, I am going to be focusing down the Savage Orc Airboys. Those guys are the primo target, but Zach being really smart. He's actually overcasting Spirit Leech from a distance, so I can't shoot him with the Warp Lightning Cannon. And this is my issue with Skrulk in this matchup, is he just gets gooned so hard by Spirit Leech spam. Like, the Greenskins can just like get like 3 or 4 Spirit Leeches before the fighting even starts, if they're very conservative. And then from there, Skrulk is like, 40%, and like 1 charge will kill him. So that's why, I've been more of a fan of Ikit in this matchup. So Gutter Runner's going to be coming forward, trying to halt the advance, poking into the Savage Orcs. Really good play by Zach, though. He gets the Goblins and kind of screens those guys forward. But here we're starting to get some decent damage. You can see the Archer boys here, the Air boys, have lost only 4 models, but this is a really unfortunate situation for the Greenskins here. So basically the Air boys are advancing up while the Savage Orcs are standing still. They're looking to get some poking fire, right? However, it unfortunately or accidentally blobs these guys up. So now the Savage Orcs and the Air boys are just getting pounded by the Play Claw Catapults. Look at that value. So much damage into those guys right here. On that same note, I do also summon the Ixcha's Triads, and I just send them in, or I summon a clone of them, and I send them in just as a tar pit. Ammunition's being wasted, it halts the advance, and it buys more time for my artillery to really shine. Shine. Ikit Claw here, going to be getting Spirit Leech once again. So again, Azag really starting to put some hurt on my Lord. He's down to about 3,300. 1 more Spirit Leech tick should go off there. 32. Warp Lightning Cannons are going to be going after trolls, making them pay the troll toll, and you can see they're already shaken, taking a lot of damage there, and now we're falling back in a bit of a defensive concave here. So the Greenskins are advancing, but huge damage from the artillery so far. The Savage Orc Airboys up on the high ground have taken brutal damage. These Savage Orcs are very beat up, and also you can see these trolls are paying the troll toll themselves. So here are my Skaven slaves. The brave rats of the Under Empire are sent forward to meet their end at the clubs and axes of this Savage Orc Greenskin horde, and we summon some Clan Rats. So the Clan Rats are going to be charging into these archers back here, which is great. We're able to slip past the defenses of these guys and get on top of the archers, but the Greenskins are encroaching. Goblins are coming down, but this is a dream situation. We get a bunch of goblins in here. We have our Plague Furnace draining them. We also have the Death Runners coming in to clean up. So Death Runners just kind of using them as a bit of a hit and run unit here. Unfortunately, though, the Trolls do see the Death Runners, are able to get this jump on them, and this is going to be quite painful for these rats, as they're going to be taking a beating. Plus, the Greenskins also do have the high ground, so in this case, I am the Anakin. And I'm getting charged pretty good. Granted, Plague Furnace holding things up, and there is a big Greenskin wall coming right here, but I have Skaven Slaves, and I do also, of course, have some juicy summons. Now on the flank, the Greenskins are trying to get around. You can see these Squig Hoppers trying to pressure, and on the far side, Squig Hoppers are also preparing to pressure my artillery. But I invested a lot of gold in protecting these back here. I have Grinders, I have Rat Ogres, I have a ton of Spears. We should be okay. So back on the main line fighting, the Orc Daka line continuing to shoot, but even though it is putting some decent pressure into my forces, I'm also giving it right back. So you can see the Orc Airboys are taking a lot of damage here from the Plague Claw catapults, and the Warp Lightning Cannons are annihilating the Trolls. So balance of power is a little bit Skaven favored here as the Plague Claw catapult sings into the Savage Orc Airboys. And now that the main fighting is actually underway, the Greenskins are going to be popping their Wah, so he was able to avoid my Ikit Zap Zap Cannon. On top of that, the Trolls do have the aspect of the Dread Knight, or the Savage Orcs do, which is going to be routing back my Skaven Slaves fairly easily, but we have the Death Runners, we have Clan Rats, and we do also have Skaven Slaves. So we have a lot of stuff we can kind of just throw in here and sacrifice, and also a Plague Monk summon is going to be very effective. Plague Monks are very good against Goblins and kind of lightly armored troops in general. However, Zach's coming in with the big old Azak, getting a nice rear charge here on the Plague Priest. Very scary situation for sure. This is one of the ways that the game can become very problematic for me, but on that same note, Azag is a little bit overextended. The Warp Lightning Cannon is going to be blasting him, and if he does come back here, I have Gutter Runners, I have Ikit Claw, so he does wisely fall back. Now in the back line here, Ogres and the Eshin Triads are able to hold back the Savage Orcs and the Durkit Squigs, and he is able to get some Squig Hoppers back here onto my artillery piece. A little bit of a lapse in micro on my part, I slipped up, but Ikit's coming back. We have Skaven Slaves, and also the Warp Grinders are going to be coming in here, so this is a very pivotal point here in the battle. You can see the Greenskins are going to be swarming, trying to shut down the Zap Cannon, which is really important. However, I have some elements that are going to really favor my forces in AoE fighting. I have the Warp Grinders, I have an AoE from the Plague Furnace, I have Terror Routes from Ikit Claw, a lot of things that Greenskins really don't like. So the Squig Hoppers here are probably going to get Terror Routed in a second. We do also drop a Warp Lightning Cannon to halt the advance here of the Squigs and prevent their kind of a collapse into the center mass here. So basically it locks down these Squig Hoppers, allowing the Clan Rats to come in and finish them off. And here in the main fighting, you can see Ikit Claw is able to get some juicy Terror Routes, and Plague Monk Summon once again being dropped, which is going to halt the Greenskin reinforcements from getting into this main fight. And also the Mortis Engine effect is going. It hits the Trolls, it hits all the infantry here, but Azak coming in once again and getting some really nasty damage. You can see the Plague Priest getting really low, but the catapults are still shooting, which is a huge issue for the Greenskins. The catapult does have a contaminate ability, which I believe lowers leadership, so it's really good at breaking off relatively low leadership units here like these Savage Orc Airboys. So the Warp Grinders are forced into combat once again against Savage Orcs. Not a good situation for them, but I do have Clan Rats with Spears and also Ikit Claw, so the Spears will be able to deal with the Trolls, Ikit will be able to deal with Savage Orcs with Terror Routes and just anti-infantry capabilities. And the crew has ran for the Warp Lightning Cannon, but it is going to be coming back, and you can see I do have some Gutter Runners on the edge of the map who will be coming back. So things are getting a little bit better. So as the Greenskins kind of have a bit of a mass exodus, I am able to get the Ixchel Triads clones, send them back here. Rat Ogres are able to surge past the Greenskin defenses, which were extended down here, and a lot of the missile pieces are pretty much just done for. The Plague Claw Catapult has gotten 150 whopping kills on those archers, and Ikit Claw has been able to just run over and tear out these low leadership units like Goblins and Trolls, and yeah, he's been doing a really good job here. So the Ikit Zap crew going to be running back to its artillery piece, giving Azag a couple shanks on the way out. And you guys are about to see in a second also why it's so very important to bring Howling Warpkill. So here, we're able to lock down Azag, so he's Howling Warpkill. He can't move now. The Ixchel Triads are coming in, Spears are coming in. He's going to start taking huge damage. Gutter Runners are throwing their Ninja Stars. Ikit Claw's coming in. Just many things going very badly for Azag here. And you can see it is very heavily affecting the balance of power as he does take more and more damage. Now, as far as what the Greenskins have, I mean, Greenskins are a faction that route and come back, and oftentimes can have a big second wind, much like Skaven. You know, you see a lot of my forces coming back and kind of rallying here, but the advantage I have is though his forces are rallying, now I get pretty much a whole nother window to shoot my artillery. So catapults still have a couple of volleys left. They're up to a whopping 170 kills, and Zach coming in here on the flank. So really good play here with the Squigs. Coming in to try and shut down the Plague Claw Catapult, prevent its last couple shots, but the Warp Grinders are here. I did see it coming, and here comes the ultimate trap, and drop the base. So the base is going to be dropped here, and they get halted right before they get in there, and that is probably going to finish off the Night Goblin Squig Hoppers as that magic damage coming in, and also we do have the Gutter Runners coming in with their Ninja Stars to really peel those guys off, and those Squig Hoppers are done for. Ikit Claw is in pretty good shape. We also have the Plague Furnace. The Warp Lightning Cannon actually has a lot of ammo left, which is very problematic for the Greenskins. And up in the sky, you can see Azag is kind of trying to salvage his troops. He was able to peel off the Ogres and help his Trolls out here in the back. And some of the Archers are back online, but I have so much ammo left on that Warp Lightning Cannon that Azag for the most part, probably is not going to be able to come in and fight this battle again. Over here, Clan Rats with Spears are probably going to be able to defeat Trolls, which is a great situation for me. Those little rat boys definitely doing the Horn Rat proud. And there are some Savage Orcs peeling in who have been able to cut through Clan Rats, but again, they're not going to be able to do anything against the Furnace or Ikit Claw, both of which are like hard counters against these type of troops. And yeah, the Greenskins, like I said, getting stuff back, but as this battle grinds on more and more, and Ikit Claw and company are able to peel off more of these Savage Orcs, summons are being dropped here from the Plague Monk to go kill the archers. And the Warp Lightning Cannons are just killing all the Trolls as they do try and come back. It's looking pretty grim. Azag might be able to come in for another snipe, but you can see here as the archers get buckled off, that is going to be a victory for my Skaven in Game 3. So very well played to Zach. It was a very hotly contested best of 3. Came down to that last game, but thankfully it was a matchup I felt quite comfortable in. And I don't know. I'm trying to think what matchup. I can't remember who I banned there. I think I banned like Tomb Kings. The Tomb King versus Skaven matchup is winnable, but it really forces you into like a bit of a bunker. And if you go for a Skaven bunker against Tomb Kings and they don't swarm you and they bring like a missile build, that can be really ugly. So I don't like that matchup for Skaven. Granted, it's very winnable. But as far as the build goes, I liked it. I think it's something that I've been practicing a lot with. It's tried and true for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Skrulk is very good. Again, Lieber can like counter snipe pretty effectively, but I really do love Ikit Claw in that matchup. Like having that terror-causing beast with Howling Warpgale and Brass Orb is really, really good. And yeah, it was a fun one. And yeah, Zach's army, I liked it as well. I think Azag is really, really good. I don't know. I've tried Trolls a lot in this matchup, and I used to do them a lot against Skaven back when Skaven were like first released, but I've been having trouble getting good value out of the Troll City. I don't know. I'm trying to think what they could do differently. Like maybe Biggins? Like how would Orc Biggins be here? Like they kill the infantry. They're a little bit more durable. They have anti-large against Rat Ogres and like, other things like that. I don't know. This is a matchup I haven't played from the Greenskin perspective in quite some time. I do actually like the Orc Archer builds. I think the Archers can be very effective here. The Plague Claw Catapult's such a good counter, though. 197 kills on that thing is pretty insane. So I'll have to theorycraft a bit because I do like Greenskins. They're one of my other tournament factions. As far as who I usually play in like best of 3s and best of 5s, it usually includes Skaven, Vampire Coast, Greenskins. Occasionally, like there's matchups, circumstantial matchups. Like if they pick Skaven, I like to surprise people with the Bretonnian build they have. There's stuff like that, but for the most part, I definitely need to broaden my build horizon. So very well played to Zach. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and guys, we'll see you in the next round of the tournament. And yeah, I think my next opponent is already ready, so we'll be playing that in the next few days, and we'll see if I can keep advancing on. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. We'll see you guys on the other side. Take care.